This is an Old Gamer Rants, episode 4 for the weeks of February 12th, 2017. PS4 Pro Boost Mode, Half-Life VR, and other stories. Hello gamers, and welcome to Gamers Bay's bi-weekly unscripted news show. Who needs scripts? I don't need no stinking scripts. In this show, we cover some of the bigger news stories of the past 2 weeks, and there's been a drought of news stories for the past 2 weeks. So, there's been some, haven't been a lot. January was really busy. It was the biggest week because of CES, and then the last episode one of the Penny Arcade shows was going on. So there was some news coming out of that. It wasn't one of the bigger of the Penny Arcade shows. The bigger stuff is coming up in the next couple of weeks, couple of months. GDC is coming, and then after that is E3, and then Gamescom. So we've got some bigger stuff coming, but right now we've got a drought in news. It's not a huge drought. We're not suffering for news, but we don't have a whole lot to pick from. Now, I may have missed some stuff. We don't cover everything. We cover the more interesting things. And what happens is we cover the stories, and then I make comments about it, and sometimes I rant about it. This is why the show is called An Old Gamer Rants, because I get really mad. So, if I missed any news stories that you think should have been on the show, comment about them in the comments below here on YouTube, and also on the thread in the Gamers Bay community over at Google+. And I encourage you to come on over because we're a really good community. We're originally based in retro gaming, so we have an older membership, so little 12-year-olds that are going to scream at you and say, I screwed your mom. And our moderators are fair. We don't have egos, we follow rules, so we don't just delete posts because, I don't like that particular game, so I'm going to delete you. No, we don't do that, we can't do that. So we're a much better gaming community, and I encourage you to come over and give us a look, sign up, and start posting your interesting news stories and articles and blogs. We have a sister community for Let's Play videos. So if you're a YouTuber and you're wanting to get some exposure, you can head on over to the Gamers Video Archive and post your Let's Plays there to get more exposure. So let's move on to the news. Valve is killing Steam Greenlight. Now, Steam Greenlight was never meant to last as long as it did. In order to get your game onto Steam before, Valve had to vet the game themselves. They had to take a look at it and set pages up and everything and put the game out on Steam themselves. Then they made Steam Greenlight. Steam Greenlight was meant to be a stopgap between how they were doing it before and the new way they're going to be doing it now, which is a full self-service system that Gabe Newell has been wanting to have for Steam for a long time. Now, the one thing they want to avoid is the problem of crap getting shoveled onto Steam. So they are trying to figure out, with the aid of developers, they're talking to developers to do this, they're trying to figure out what the service fee is going to be for uploading your game to Steam. Whether it be $100 or $5,000. They want it to be low enough that the really good low-budget indie developers can still get their games out on Steam. But they want it high enough that it will keep these crap developers like Digital Homicide and other companies like them throwing their garbage out on the Steam, trying to make a buck with games that are barely games. But they want to try and weed out that problem. And Steam Greenlight has sorta, kinda helped with that. The community gets to vote on what games get put on Steam. But there's been a lot of garbage released on Steam Greenlight. There's a lot of garbage there, a lot of trash games. And if you are subscribed to Jim Sterling, he's covered a lot of these trash games. I mean, there's some really bad ones out there. I mean, awful. And he's covered most of them. So, Steam Direct will replace Steam Greenlight, and Steam Greenlight is going the way of the dodo. And hopefully they can set it up to where, you know, the good lower budget indie studios can still release their stuff on Steam, but the shit developers are kept out. Hopefully they can do that. And this is something that Valve has been needing to do for a long time. Greenlight lasted longer than it was meant to. I recently posted a video on a texture bug for Fallout 4, which is the infamous rainbow textures bug. Now, a viewer had suggested an idea of using a tool that Bethesda makes available for modders to extract files from the game's archives and extract out all the texture files into the data folder, the same folder where all the archives are at, and then insert the text into the game INI files that you have to do anyway if you're going to use Nexus mods to enable modding. You don't have to do this for Bethesda mods from Bethesda.net, from the in-game menu, but if you're going to use stuff from Nexus, you're going to have to enable these anyway. And what this does is it makes the game read the raw individual files from the file system rather than from the archive. Now, the game wasn't designed to do this, so there is a little bit of texture pop-in as it does this. So it's a little slower reading it in. And it's supposed to fix the rainbow texture problem. Now, this does have a hit in performance. And depending on how powerful your machine is, it can be a big hit or a small hit. Now, my machine is not the most powerful there is. It's a dual-core machine with hyper-threading. It's an AMD APU. And I have a dedicated graphics card. I have an R9 270, and I'm using a A10 6800K, which is an older APU. It was the top high-end APU at one time when I first built this machine. But now it's no longer that. It's a generation behind, and now we've got Ryzen coming. Now, I'm on a ramen diet to save money, so I can upgrade to Ryzen, and possibly Vega, although I may upgrade to an RX 480 instead. But, Bethesda recently released a new DLC, a free DLC for Fallout 4, called the High Resolution Texture Pack. And the reason why I mentioned the rainbow texture bug is because, reportedly, this fixes that bug. Now, Bethesda has said that you need a pretty beefy machine in order to use this resolution pack. Now, the R9 270 is a 2GB graphics card. Now, some people have said they had no problems using this on a lower end machine. I'm not running at 1080p, I'm running at 1366 by 768. That's the native resolution of my display. So I'm not running at the max HD resolution, running at just a little bit above 720. So this may help, and some people have said this actually fixes the rainbow textures problem. Now, you can remove DLC if you need to. So I may try this, and if this doesn't work, I'll try the other idea suggested by our viewer. and see if those work. And I'll do a follow-up video on those to let you know which ones worked, which ones didn't. But there are some people that say this isn't exactly a high resolution texture pack. It's Bethesda's idea of what high resolution is sort of questionable, which is probably right. It's meant for players who play in 4K, and some say it's not really as high resolution as it should be, that there are texture packs from modders that are a lot better, and that's probably true. But if this does fix that particular problem, it'd be great. Now, there have been some assertions, and I sort of agree with them, that it may have been a problem with the texture format that Bethesda has been using. They've been using DirectDraw surfaces as the texture file format for Fallout 4, and there's some issues with DirectDraw surfaces, and this particular render of this file format that they have been using, and that they've copied out to every copy of the game. There may be some issues with it, some optimization issues, something that keeps the game from being able to read the files correctly in the archives, which is why you get the rainbow texture problem. And this replaces those textures, so very likely this may well fix that. So we will see. I'll test it out and I'll let you guys know. Oculus Rift might be in some big trouble, and this could be a sign of a rocky road ahead. Now, there has been a court case between Facebook, Oculus, and ZeniMax for a long time now. And the whole thing is that ZeniMax says that Oculus used some of their IP to make the Oculus Rift. Now, John Carmack, who was basically the mastermind of id Software, which is currently owned by ZeniMax, went over to work for Oculus, and that's part of the reason why they say that they stole some of their IP. I also understand that they used Doom 3 for a test demo for the Oculus Rift, and they may have done it without ZeniMax's permission or id's permission, and that they say John Carmack may have taken some technology with him when he left. But in the court case, the jury said that Oculus didn't steal any of ZeniMax's IPs. ZeniMax is appealing, but the head of Oculus has been, charged with copyright infringement and violating NDAs with ZeniMax, non-disclosure agreements. So they're having to pay out, $500 million in a settlement. And now Facebook is shutting down demo stations in Best Buy stores. Not all of them, mostly keeping the ones that are in the largest markets like New York City and Los Angeles, the big cities. They're closing them down everywhere else. The reason why is because there's just no interest. No one has been coming to try them, and Best Buy has to keep extra people around just to run the station, because they need someone there to actually handle the station. It takes up space in their store that they can use for something else, and they say they haven't had anybody actually ask to test out the Oculus Rift in many months. So Oculus Rift might be in trouble. there have been some rumblings, some rumors and rumblings that Oculus Rift might be in some trouble. Now, this may be true, maybe not. It's still really early to tell whether or not VR is going to survive or not. I've always said, in order to be mainstream, VR needs a killer app. Now, Sony on the PlayStation 4, the new Resident Evil, that's close to being a killer app for PSVR. That is darn close. All we've gotten for most VR headsets, all we've gotten in VR games has been these glorified tech demos where you're sitting in one place, you're not really moving around, and if you are moving around, you're teleporting. Which I hate that. I want to be able to move around. I want to be able to have my character, even if I'm just sitting there with a controller. I want to be able to move around, look around, duck, behind cover, raise up my gun, shoot, or swing a sword, or whatever, and have a AAA experience in VR. Instead of just having this, I am in the middle of a room, spinning around, shooting at stuff. I want an actual AAA experience. I want to be able to play a game like, let's say, imagine playing from the first person perspective. Imagine playing something like Skyrim in VR. And it plays exactly like Skyrim does now, except the controls are virtual reality controls, and you can turn your head and look around. Explore dungeons, it's all the same content, except it's in virtual reality. That's the sort of experience that I've been expecting and looking for in VR. That's not what we've been getting, and that's a problem. Because VR is expensive. These headsets are really prohibitively expensive for most people. And the cost of the machine you need in order to drive the VR headsets is also expensive. And the games that we've been getting are not even pushing the hardware very hard. They're these little mini games, these little throwaway mini games. You play them once and then you don't play them anymore, like the Batman Arkham VR experience. I mean, yeah, it's a Batman Arkham game, but there's no substance to it. It's a gimmick, and we don't need gimmick. We need AAA. We need stuff like what Elite Dangerous does in VR, which takes advantage of virtual reality so you can look around your cockpit, look at your consoles, control your consoles as if you're sitting in your cockpit. We need that. We need stuff like we need more stuff like Eve Valkyrie. We need first-person shooters. We need RPGs, first-person RPGs in VR. We need games like that, not games like Job Simulator or Space Pirate Training or the Space Pirate Trainer. We need more than that. We need stuff with real content, stuff with real meat to it, to justify those high costs for the hardware itself. Why buy a $600, $700, $800, even a $2,000 machine and a $700 setup for a headset to play mini games? And you expect VR to survive off that? We need AAA games for VR. Which leads us as a segue into our next segment. Valve is working on 3 new titles for VR set in the Half-Life universe. Now, we don't know what these are going to be. We don't know if these are going to be full AAA games or if they're going to be more glorified tech demo mini games that we've been getting from Valve for the HTC Vive so far, like the Lab and the Portal VR game and the little mini games that we've been getting from them for VR. We don't know if it's going to be that or if it's actually going to be something with substance. And hopefully also this means that we may be either getting a VR update for Half-Life 2, which means we might get an engine update, maybe moving Half-Life 2 over to the Source 2 engine. Valve has been slowly moving their games to Source 2. They've already moved Dota 2 to Source 2. So they may be moving Half-Life 2 to Source 2, the updated engine, which should drastically update the game's visuals. And they may have to redo a lot of the assets for that game, which is why it's taken so long. And they have to redo some of the scenes and add greater detail to a lot of the maps, because that engine is capable of a lot. There have been screenshots showing what the engine can do. They've been used Left 4 Dead. They used Left 4 Dead 2 as an example, showing screenshots of the original and what they could do with the new engine. So potentially that. So there's hope that maybe if we're going to get a AAA experience in VR, we might get it from Valve. Maybe. So maybe Valve can actually count to 3. Whether this will be Half-Life 3 or not, difficult to say. We've been getting mixed messages from them. One minute they say, oh, Half-Life 3 is not going to happen. And then the next we hear, oh, it's in development. They clarify that it's in development. So, yeah, it is what it is. It's too early to say, too early to tell. Hopefully we get something really good out of this. Hopefully it's not more tech demo minigame stuff. Hopefully it's something with real substance to it. Because VR really, really needs something with substance. Alright. Boy, have the fanboys come out in droves for this one. The PS4 Pro is getting boost mode, and the fanboys screaming, "Rest in peace, Xbox! Rest in peace, PC!" have been coming out of the woodwork, screaming the glories of the PS4 Pro. Well, sorry to burst your bubble, but PS4 Pro boost mode is for regular PS4 games, for the games for the initial hardware. What it is Sony is tired of waiting for developers to release patches for their existing games that allow them to run faster on the new hardware. The new hardware is not really all that fast, really. It's not that huge a bump in performance that they hyped it up to be. And we're still waiting on Microsoft to show their hand. They've been waiting a long time. They have actually decided to not release early, and they've been working on their hardware much longer. So we'll see whether or not Microsoft actually outdoes Sony or not. We will see. But this is a mode you can turn on in the settings on the PS4 Pro after the update, and it will improve performance for older PS4 games. You will get as much as a 14 to 30% boost. That's it. Just a small bump. 14 and 30%. That might be enough to bump some games up to 60 frames per second. Some games that just can't, barely make it to 60 frames per second. it might bump them up. That could introduce some problems. Some lazy developers tie game mechanics and physics to frame rate. So if your game starts running faster than 30 frames per second, it could introduce a lot of issues. Your game could start acting really funky. So this may or may not work out perfectly for every game. As I said, tying game mechanics and physics to your frame rates is lazy development. I mean, lazy development. And no, 30 frames per second is not cinematic. You need 60 frames per second in order to minimize input lag. A 30 frame per second game, especially an action game, is going to have input lag. I am sorry, but that is simply how it is. I am sorry, but that is simply how it is. It is not cinematic. It is not an artistic choice. It's lazy programming. It is not optimizing your code to run the best on the hardware. And if you need to develop your game in order to run the best on the hardware that's available. And they're not doing that, so they are making compromises. They're making it run, slower. They're making it run at a lower resolution than what the machine is supposed to be meant for. And that does a disservice to their customers. Because they buy this machine expecting to be able to play games 1080p, 60 frames per second, and they don't get that. So, and this machine and the PS4 Pro is supposed to be for 4K, and they're not getting 4K. They're getting games at lower resolutions upsampled to 4K, which is not the same thing. Upsampling is not the same as rendering. I'm sorry, it's not. And it won't look as good. In fact, it could introduce some weird artifacting and other problems, other graphical glitches. And the texture quality won't be there either. So, it is what it is. Alright. I was gonna make the PS4 Pro section my special comment, but I decided to put this here because I have something to say. Now, let me ask a hypothetical question. Let's say you run a company and you make a product. And let's say you sell that product in a specific market. And let's say there's people that are outside that market who see your product and they like what they see and they want to buy it. And they can't because you don't sell it in that market. Now, what would you do? Would you say, oh, they want this here, let's sell it here? Or would you just sit on your hands and ignore them and stick your fingers in your ears going la 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 as people outside your existing market ask for that product? Would you just sit there and ignore them? Would you tell them, this is such and such region why we can't sell it there? So what are the reasons why you can't sell it in a certain market, or why you're not going to sell it in a certain market? Say anything, explain anything to people to let them know, why aren't you selling this here? Why aren't you selling this in this particular market? Why aren't you selling this on this specific platform? Can you at least say something? And for years, there has been enormous outcry from people wanting Red Dead Redemption on PC for years. And it's not been a small outcry, it's been a big outcry. Every time a new GTA game comes out, someone's asking about Red Dead Redemption. Every time a new update for GTA 5 comes out, people keep asking, where is Red Dead Redemption for PC? Where is it? I've been asking for it for a long time. I've been watching the gaming industry for a long time, and I have not seen demand for a specific game as big as this. People have been wanting this game for years on PC since it was released, because, you know, frankly, a lot of people say it's a really great game, and it's a Western game, so who wouldn't like that? And we've got nothing but silence from Rockstar on whether or not they're actually going to do it, or why they can't, or if they're not, or anything. We've gotten nothing from them. Not a peep from them. And then there's also Destiny. There's been demand, not as big. I mean, the demand for Red Dead Redemption is like up here. I mean, if Rockstar had sold it, it would sell as good as GTA 5. There's been a lot of people asking for Destiny for PC. A lot. Not as many as there were for Red Dead Redemption, but a lot. And again, crickets. Now, there could be reasons why Destiny may not have gotten as many, people asking for it as there were for Red Dead Redemption. Don't know an excuse as to why Rockstar didn't say anything to people as to why they weren't releasing it on PC. Still no excuse. But they should have at least said something. Explained, we're under contract, the game is exclusive on Sony's hardware, we can't release it on other platforms. It's an exclusivity deal, we can't release it on other platforms, we're sorry we can't give it to you. They should have at least come out and say that, if there was such a thing. Knowing Sony, there probably was. Same thing, very likely, with the original Destiny, and Bungie should have come out and said, well, this is what's happening, we can't release it because on PC because exclusivity deal, which is very likely. But they still should have come out and said, we can't do that because of the exclusivity deal. They should have at least told consumers that much, and we got nothing from them. We got nothing from them. We got static. We got silence. And that is not how you treat your consumers. That is not how you treat them. If you can't sell a specific game in a certain market or in a certain platform, at least explain why. At least show some common damn courtesy to your consumers. At least treat your customers with your customers or potential customers with at least some damn respect. And this rolls into another thing. I am a big advocate for a law that I like to call no sale, no recourse. Because the whole copyright thing has gotten massively blown out of proportion. It is gotten to be a big problem. It has mucked up this country. It has mucked up this country royal. There are companies that are spending more money in litigation defense against other companies than they are on R&D for new products. Because everybody is so happy over copyrights and patents. So I am the big advocate for what a law that I like to call no sale, no recourse. Basically says, let's say You sell a particular product. You sell it in, let's say there are 2 cities. You sell a particular product and you sell it in one city. Well, let's say the people in the other city, they see the product, they read the reviews of it, they want it. They ask for it, they demand it, they make big demand for it. But you don't sell it there still. Despite the fact that there is demand for it there, you refuse to sell it in that other city. So what recourse do these other people have to get it? Well, they can try to import it, or they can try to import it, which sometimes they can't. And then the only other recourse that most people have is to pirate it. Now, what happens when they do that? Well, the company suddenly comes in with their jackbooted lawyers and stomps on them and saying, "You can't pirate our stuff." Well, the way this law would work, and I'm no lawyer, so haven't written this down, but if I were in Congress and I had no lawyer friends who could help me write it out so that it would be acceptable on the floor of the House or the Senate or whatever, the law would basically state, if you don't sell it in a particular market, if you make something like a movie, or if you sell a movie or a video game and you don't sell it in a particular market where there is demand for it and someone pirates it in that market where you're not selling it, if their only recourse is to steal it, you have no legal recourse to go after them for stealing it. For stealing something that you should have been selling to them in the first place. If you weren't selling it to them, if you were selling it there and someone stole it, yeah, you can go after them for stealing it. But if you refuse to sell it to them, if you refuse to sell it in that market, and someone, has no other recourse but to get it, they have no other recourse but to pirate it, then it's your own fault that they're doing so. And you have no legal grounds to go after them. And it is a way to teach companies that if there is a demand for something, if people are demanding it, then stop ignoring them. Stop using copyright as a cudgel. Stop using copyright as a weapon. It is not meant to be that. Because we need to make companies stop using it that way. It is not what it was meant to be used for. It wasn't meant to be forever. Copyrights weren't ever the founding fathers didn't even want copyrights. They didn't even want copyrights and patents because they knew they would be abused the way they are today. They knew they would be abused. And so what happens now? They're being abused. Copyrights are being abused. This is a hot button topic for me, because I have had it up to here with the bullcrap that's going on. On YouTube, the copyright problem is really bad. Because we have, in copyright law in the United States, we have what are called fair use rights. There are certain rules in which we can use a copyrighted material without we can use copyrighted material without permission for certain things. We have what's called fair use rights. Well, those are being ignored on YouTube. Those are being ignored. And if you get like 3 copyright strikes on your channel gets deleted, and you have no recourse whatsoever. Very little recourse. There's very little you can actually do to fight against it. It gives too much power to corporations and not enough power to the individual. If a copyright claim is made, the burden of proof over who owns the copyright is on you and not the person making the accusation. It's like they automatically say, oh, this is theirs. Instead of saying, okay, if this is yours, show us proof that it's your copyright. YouTube's not doing that. Google's not doing that. And it's wrong. It is morally wrong to do that. It is morally wrong. And it treats people like they're criminals. And that's morally wrong, without due process. It's treating people like criminals without due process. And that is also another hot button topic for me. Another one. So this really pisses me off. This is a particular subject that gets me angry. It gets me hot under the collar. That really grinds my gears, this particular topic. But anyway, we're finally getting Destiny and Red Dead Redemption on PC. Just not the original games, we're getting their sequels. Now, there's been some stuff said by Activision and Sony that makes me think that Destiny 2, when it comes out, might be a broken mess when we get it, because apparently if Bungie doesn't release the game by a certain time this year, Activision may get a controlling stake in their stock. They may have to hand over a controlling stake of their stock, their company. So there's a possibility that we'll get a broken mess when it does release. And we're getting the sequel or prequel, whatever it is, for Red Dead Redemption. At least we're getting some kind of Red Redemption game. We should be getting the first one, but it's better than nothing. So, and it's a Rockstar game. Usually stuff from them is usually not terrible. It might be a little buggy. I mean, GTA 5 had its fair share of bugs when it released on PC, and those have been fixed. So, you know, but at least we're getting one. And you know, some of the features they say are going to be in the game pretty interesting. So if we get something like a GTA Online for Red Dead Redemption, or a co-op mode of some kind, that would be really cool. And the only other game for PC that's even similar to Destiny is Firefall, and that's in free fall right now. And then there's Warframe, which is very different, with some similarities. So there aren't many games like that, and I'm certain that when it does release, it will sell a lot. So we're finally getting these two, and I think maybe you've gotten tired of hearing me rant and rave. And that's been some of the bigger news highlights of the past 2 weeks. As I said, we can't cover absolutely everything. We missed some stuff, so if there were some stories that you think should be on the show or should have been on this episode, talk about it in the comments below here on the channel or over on the thread in Gamers Bay. Visit us in Google Plus in our community, and join us. We're a good community. We're originally based in retro gaming, so we have an older membership, so no trolls, no little kids screaming at you saying that they banged your mom and any of that crap. And we've got fair moderators who themselves have to operate by specific rules, so you're not going to get moderators with egos deleting your posts just because. Also, you can reach me via Facebook, Twitter, and my Google Plus handle as well. And I've been Mike. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in 2 weeks. Also, to let you know, I am currently working on a new show over on my channel at TheZorch Central. It is called Gamers. It's a comedy show set in the same world as Chloe and the Professor. It's still going to take me some time to develop the idea. It's a comedy show. Comedy is hard. Ask anyone in the entertainment industry. Comedy is tougher to do than drama. It is hard to do. It is hard to come up with ideas that are actually funny. Comedy's not easy. So it may take me some time to come up with this. You know, it's something that I'm still working on, still developing. This show just came to me right off the blue. Right out of the blue. Usually how most of my ideas come to me. That's how Chloe and the Professor came to me. I didn't take months and months and months of figuring out what kind of show should I do, who the characters are, how are they developed. No, it just popped. That's how most of ideas come to me. So, Chloe and the Professor is currently on hiatus until the first episode of Gamers comes out. That may be in a week or more. In the meantime, over on TheZorch Central, I may do some blogs where I talk about stuff in the gaming news and gaming community, so that at least there's no gap where there won't be any of these massive gaps where nothing's been posted there at all for 2 or 3 weeks. So, thanks for watching. I've been Mike. See you in 2 weeks. Hopefully, news will pick up then. All right. See ya.